Every single video I put out on YouTube has some sort of reflection, so that way we can learn how to better reflect on ourselves yesterday, so that way we can have better tomorrows. And this video is just like everything else. It's a reflection on what my journey has been like, being on YouTube since February 2024, and now it is May, June 2024, and I want to tell you a little bit about what I learned on my journey through self-improvement, through communication, and putting out YouTube videos to help you guys get better yourselves. One of the biggest things that I've learned about putting out these YouTube videos while still trying to help people and develop my YouTube community is how much authenticity matters. If you're a new or old subscriber, you can see that some of my earlier videos were basically around how to help you better improve your communication skills. And I focus more on the granular steps, tips, tricks, and how-tos on how to be a better speaker and communicator. Those videos were extremely fun to make, and it was great to be able to create something that people can literally learn from. And I got a lot of great comments and a lot of great feedback about people learning from what I was explaining. As I kept making videos on how-to, tips, and tricks, I realized I love talking about communication and I love helping people, but what I really love is to explain the things that I've learned that I wish I knew earlier. And as I learn new things, that adds to the list of things that I wish I knew earlier that I can help teach. So I say all that to say, as I've been on YouTube creating these videos since February 2024, I've learned so much and shared so much that in all of that, it created the cyclical nature of learning, sharing, learning, sharing, learning, sharing, which ends up being teaching. Another thing about this YouTube journey I learned about myself is initially, I think I came in looking to be more popular and I wanted the numbers to come faster. I was really obsessed with the idea of being a successful YouTuber or successful content creator fast. For those of you who are subscribed and have seen what I do in real life in terms of touring with R&B Only, being a live events host, and having somewhat of a viral Instagram and TikTok, you understand that I've been doing this and putting myself out on the internet for quite a bit of time. And you can check my YouTube videos to get a little bit more context for what I'm talking about. But because I have that long history of putting myself out on the internet, every new project that I engage in, I want it to happen fast. I want the success to come. I want the numbers. I want the views. I want the likes. I want everybody to say, this guy's amazing. But it's interesting that although that's in the back of my head, although I'm focusing on providing value through my videos, and although I understand it was going to take time, that thought was still interfering with how my videos were being created and how they were being put out. It's been about 3 months now since I've been consistent with putting out videos every week, sometimes twice a week, shorts every day on YouTube. And something that I've really learned about myself is that if you're doing it for the sake of profit, you will burn out. But if you're doing it for the sake of purpose, you could do this without getting paid, and you could probably do it forever. Most of y'all have probably heard the quote, if you're doing what you love, it doesn't feel like work, it actually feels like play. What does that quote actually mean though? That quote is actually really hard to unpack if you don't know what you love. Deciding and figuring out what you love gets harder and harder the older you get, because it takes a lot for you to decide this is what I love. Now, especially if you're creative. Oh, don't get me started. If you're a creative, you're somebody who never wants to box themselves into I love this or I love that or I love this. You're going to end up in an endless cycle of picking that, picking this, picking that, and you'll never end up deciding on one thing that you want to pursue and become really great at and put your full effort into creating content around that. I completely understand not wanting to be a niche. But something I have learned from being on this YouTube journey and focusing on self-improvement and communication is I am the niche. You can always connect your passions back to one core message as long as you've realized what that core message is. And to find that core message, you have to do it. That's it. There's no secret technique. There's no tactic. There's no optimization skill that's going to teach you how to be introspective with yourself. The only way to figure out what you love and how to connect all the things that you love back to the one core message you want, and to figure out what that core message is to do it. Start. Commence. Attend HUT. Since January 1st, 2024, I adopted this mentality of get to 80% and call that a finished product. As somebody who suffers from perfectionism and paralysis analysis and all those kinds of overthinking things, I knew that every time that I wanted to put something out, if I think about trying to get it to 100%, 110% perfection, awesome, I love this is great, the amount of time it would take to get to 80% isn't the hard part. It's taking it from 80 to 100 that would be the hard part. And that would take so much effort and time and mental toll on me that it was difficult for me to end up making a lot of content. So what would end up happening is it would end up taking me weeks to create a piece of content because I was trying to take it from 80 to 100 instead of just putting out the 80% and then continuously putting out the 80%. I could get to 80% pretty fast. I decided, let me be okay with just getting to 80%. Now, instead of having one video a month that I got to 100%, I can have 5 videos a month that I got to 80%. And that 5 times 80% videos are going to have a way better compound effect on my growth than it will be for me to keep doing the 100% 1 month after 1 month after 1 month. Now, this concept doesn't work for everything. It is important to do things right. I wasn't taking shortcuts. Is my message clear? Did I do what I wanted to do? And am I representing myself in a way that's directly representing who I actually am? If all those checks were yes, we're putting it out. If it was all about the glamour, the glitz, the edits, the captions and all that blah, blah, I thought to myself, if somebody's going to complain about that one thing, let them complain about it. Let me not be the one that's stuck on those little things, because those minute details, how much time they end up taking and how much it takes away from the amount of time I can have to grow and keep making new content doesn't make sense. The most interesting thing about putting out 5 at 80% versus 1 at 100% per month is now I have 5 opportunities to see what I can get better at. Since I'm only going to 80% so often, it ends up letting me see, wow, how can I make 20% faster? So now, after I did 10 80% videos, all of a sudden my new bare minimum standard is now 85%. Just because I got so many reps in at doing up to 80%, naturally, my body got nice. My skills got tight. And now, getting to that 85% wasn't as much of a tall task. All of a sudden, my videos are at 85, and they keep getting better. Now I have 20 videos out. Next time, it's 90%. If I keep going at that rate, I keep accelerating the growth that I want. And a lot of that mentality came from me being in the gym and understanding how weightlifting is going to impact your growth. You don't get into the gym and see somebody lifting 225 on the bench and think, I could do that. And all of a sudden, because you think you can do it, you can lift it. That's not how it works. And it's just like social media and all the other things that we end up consuming. But when your goal is to be a producer, when your goal is to profit, and your goal is to be somebody who can become an entrepreneur based on the content that you're creating, it's super important to understand that you have to stay in your race. Just like you're running track, you have to stay in your lane. You cannot hop in somebody else's lane and think that that's going to help you win the race. You have to run the race against yourself. The more you hop around, the more you're just resetting and starting a whole new race. So for me personally, I didn't know exactly what my niche was until I started being myself on camera. And the more I started being myself on camera, the more I saw things that, hey, you're a little bit tight. Hey, you need to be a little bit more loose. Let your real personality shine out. All of these things started becoming thoughts that I had because I had so much content that I put out of myself that I was able to review and reflect on myself. The best thing about the content I was even putting out is, although some of those things I look back at and say, man, I wish I did this on that, there's still something in that video that somebody else has watched and gotten value from. That's the best thing about just making the progress and doing the thing, doing the work, or putting yourself out there. Put it out there, because you never know who you're going to impact and who you're going to inspire with it. Now, I've been asking myself the question, are you doing it for purpose or are you doing it for profit? Both of those things can exist in the same ambition. You can want to do it for purpose and want to do it for profit at the same time, but you have to understand which one you're leading with. And if you're leading with profit, that's okay, but understand that it will be reflected in your content based on how you put yourself out there, because you won't be focused on, am I being myself? You're going to be focused on, am I getting the attention of people that will help me profit? And when you're leading with purpose, you have to understand you're being yourself, you're putting yourself out there, but it will be a slower ascension. It will be a slower grind to attract your community and your tribe, because now you're not trying to appeal to everyone. You're not trying to be everyone's cup of tea. You're trying to be your cup of tea, and whoever wants a sip, here I am. Here you are. Purpose versus profit. Now, where the in-between comes in, with some of the most successful YouTubers, people like Alex Hormozy, or controversial people even like Andrew Tate. Those are people that knew how to mix their purpose and their profit seamlessly to the point where you don't even know which one is their objective unless they tell you. And most of the time, they'll tell you whichever one is more accurate in the moment and chapter of life that they're at the current time. Personally speaking, I feel like I'm very transparent on my YouTube, but I haven't been direct. And I also haven't been unleashing my full self in these videos. My personal opinions, my real vibrations, my true essence hasn't fully come out. But as I've made more videos, I've started to see glimmers of me coming out more and more. And I hope that you as the viewers have seen that too. But I also wondered, why aren't I growing? I'm putting out all these shorts, I'm doing all this, blah, 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 blah. And I was wondering why my growth was slower. And I realized the stories that I'm telling are true to self, but I was leading with figuring out how to get these numbers, how to get these profits. I wanted to be popular. I wanted to be seen as a hero. I wanted to be seen as that guy. And that's okay. It's okay. I was leading with ego. The funniest thing about that is my first video in the self-improvement communication field was ego is the enemy. The funniest thing about our most dangerous enemies is that our most dangerous enemies are usually the things that we don't even recognize as being a problem or being an enemy. And in this case, I didn't realize that my desire to be a successful YouTuber, my desire to get the subscriber count, to get the followers, to get the recognition was interfering with me putting my true self out onto the internet and putting my true self out onto YouTube. Recently, I had a trip to Barcelona that woke up something inside of me that the best way I can describe it for anime fans, it's like when Megumi from Jujutsu Kaisen unleashed his domain expansion right before he was about to give up the fight and just say, I'll just use the thing that's gonna kill me to beat this guy. And then he said, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna try my best and do what I think I can do and see what happens. That's the best way for me to describe the awakening that I had in Barcelona and how it's reflecting into my YouTube content. I don't really care if you like me or not, because the people who like me are the people that I'm looking for. The people who don't like me, this content isn't for you. But this content will be out there, and I'm no longer worried about pleasing people that don't want to like me. I only want to put content out for people that care about what I have to say. And the best way to do that in a consistent, healthy way is to keep putting content out there. I started by picking one thing that I knew I could talk about forever, which is having a growth mindset, self-improvement, and communication. All of those things to me are synonymous with who I am as Apex Laurent. As I started doing that, I learned a lot more things about what I wanted to talk about. My own lessons, my own life, my own growth, fitness, health, mentality, social media. But all of them come back to the universal message of how we communicate with ourselves, how we tell our story. I find it extremely important. No, I don't just find it extremely important. I think it's my purpose to share my story, because as I share my story, I can help you share your story so that together we can make history. And now for my old subscribers, for my friends, for my peers, anybody watching this video, and for anybody who's coming in and this might be something new and you're new to my channel, hello, welcome, and I promise you, from here on out, you're gonna see an unfiltered version of myself. And I'm excited to keep growing my community, and I appreciate you even taking the time to watch this video. But believe me, from here on out, it's gonna be undeniable. Not to say that my other videos weren't undeniable, but I think you'll feel the difference and the authenticity that comes out. There's no more filter about should I be YouTubing or what should I not say. I wanna say what I have to say, and I wanna help who I wanna help, and those are the people that I'm focused on. Anybody else? There's another channel for you. Thanks for watching, stay tuned. I got a whole bunch of other videos on my page. I got a whole bunch of fun stuff on my Instagram. Y'all know where my TikTok is at. Remember, self-improvement through communication starts with how you communicate with yourself. I tell my story to help you tell your story, so we can make history.